So you just bought the Kassai Blitz deck from heavy hitters and you want to improve it without breaking the bank. In this video, I'm going to go over the basic strategy of the deck, roughly $25 worth of upgrades, and ending off with the more expensive cards if you're looking to fully tune the deck. If you're new to Flesh and Blood, I highly advise trying out the cheaper list before you decide to invest in some of the more expensive cards like the legendary equipment pieces. I'm going to be using Card Trader as my price guide for this video, so the prices I'm using are in Canadian, and these cards will be cheaper or possibly more expensive depending on where you are in the world. But with all that said, let's get right into the video. The strategy for Kassai revolves around swinging twice with her weapons, often first with the Hot Streak and then with the Centauri Saber. Utilizing her first ability with cards like Draw Swords, she gets the ability to swing for free and just needs access to Go Again with things like the agility tokens. Her second effect also allows us to trade reds and yellows in the graveyard for the ability to make gold tokens, which can be used to activate that first effect. Kassai is a master of being able to block with 2 cards and still swing twice, usually pitching a blue and using a 1-cost Go Again enabler. This allows her to slowly whittle an opponent down while keeping her life total healthy until she has a really good hand and wants to take a hit to use all of her cards for a huge swing. With the upgrades we'll be adding to this deck, we're seeking to focus on being able to swing with both weapons every turn, utilizing Go Again cards alongside the agility tokens to do so, as well as adding some extra power to her swings. Starting off with the equipment, we're going to stick with both the Saber and the Hot Streak for this list, but you can feel free to run 2 Sabers if you'd prefer to have the +1 effect on both of your swings. However, we are going to remove the Vigor Girth, Beckon Applause, and Flat Trackers in exchange for the Blossom of Spring, Gallantry Gold, and Refraction Bolters. Blossom of Spring is a one-time free resource which can help us on a turn where we don't draw a blue. Gallantry Gold allows us to block one and then power up both of our swords for a big turn to help push damage and get Kassai's on hit. And the Refraction Bolters also let us block one and then get a free Go Again trigger when a weapon hits, meaning that if an opponent chooses not to block your Hot Streak, you can still give it Go Again. The only other include here is a single copy of No Rune Gloves in case you have to deal with some rune chants. Moving on to the main deck, we're going to be replacing 18 cards in total. I do want to mention, however, that if you're coming back to this video to look at the cards that you need to remove, you can just go to the deck list below and you will find those cards to remove in the inventory section of the deck list. So to begin, we're going to want to put in all 6 copies of Blade Runner, removing the red and yellow trade-ins, as well as the blue Vigorous Engagement. Blade Runner is the best card to run in this deck, as it grants Go Again to our first weapon attack and pumps the second. It also only costs 1 resource, meaning that we can swing twice and use this card with just a single blue pitch. No matter what else you do with this deck, you're going to want all copies of Blade Runner, as it fills the roles of Go Again, attack boosting, and fitting our resource curve perfectly. Then we're going to add in the yellow and blue hit and runs, removing the yellow and blue engaged Swift Blades. Hit and run grants Go Again for 0 resources, but only gets the boost if it's played on the second attack. So while it rarely fits both roles of the deck, it still allows us to swing twice if we have a yellow pitch in hand, or use our extra resource from a blue pitch to use our Gallantry Gold or an attack reaction. The last Go Again enabler we want to run is going to be Glint the Quicksilver, replacing the 2 yellow lead with speed. Glint is an attack reaction that not only grants Go Again for free, but it can also draw us a card if our opponent blocked from hand. While you're probably not often going to get that ability, it can be very solid when you do, as it makes your second swing free from Kassai's ability and can free up that resource for something else you might want to do. Speaking of that second swing, the last cards in the deck are focused around that. The first being red and yellow copies of Slice and Dice, which are replacing both Rising Energy and Rising Speed. Slice and Dice is a fantastic card to pair with the Blade Runners, as it gives a +1 boost to your first sword attack and a +2 or +3 to your second. This compounds onto the Centauri Saber's own +1 effect, making Slice and Dice a great way to help ensure you chip in damage or get Kassai's gold generating on-hit effect. To also help that second swing make content, we're finishing off the upgrades with 2 red in the swing, removing the copies of Performance Bonus. In the swing simply gives a +3 boost to our second sword attack. However, it can only be stopped with defense reactions or instants, making it a very reliable way to ensure you hit with that attack for no extra resource costs. And that is it for the budget upgrades. This deck is now far more consistent with more access to Go Again, 2 more blues for the draw swords, and a few more ways to pump your attacks for no extra cost. Hopefully this deck serves you well with giving Kassai an honest go, but if you're interested in further upgrades, then you'll want to stick around for this last section. For this section, I'm not going to go over what cards to remove for any of these, but instead I just want to mention some solid options for you to consider if you've really come to love Kassai and you want to take her to the next level. Hopefully at this point you've played the deck enough that you have an idea of what you want to do with it and you can make these decisions for yourself. Starting with equipment, we've got lots of options, but the 4 I'm going to recommend are the Crown of Dominion, which gives you a starting gold token, the Grains of Bloodspill, which can help carry over extra resources in the form of Vigor tokens, Braveforge Bracers, which give us 3 block and can sometimes pump your second attack, and the last and absolute best piece of the deck, Valiant Dynamo. This is the key card for Kassai's strategy, as it will block pretty much as many times as there are turn cycles. It removes its own damage counters when you swing twice with your swords, so you're going to get that pretty much every turn. This card is perfect for stopping breakpoints and on hits, but it is rather expensive, so only buy it if you're sure that you want to keep playing Kassai. As for the actual main deck, there are tons of options here. Gorganian Tome gives you a free card draw, and Caching can do the same, although you'd usually want to pair that card with Crown of Dominion. You can also pair Raise an Army with Crown of Dominion if you'd like to have an extra attack on board to really put the pressure on your opponents. There's also a copper package with Spoils of War, Red and Yellow Outland Skirmish, and Blood on Her Hands that you can utilize, which can let you have insane turns, swinging 4 times with your weapons instead of twice. You can also throw Minerva Themis into this strategy, as she makes your swords harder to block and can search for the blood on her hands after you've hit 3 times. And whether you're running the gold, copper, or both packages, you're going to want 2 copies of Blade Flurry, which is the best new warrior card from heavy hitters, as it gives +2 to both of your attacks. Finally, because this deck doesn't have any other attacks, you can choose to run either 2 copies of Nourishing Emptiness, since Kassai can banish the first and reactivate the second copy, or you could instead run a copy of Gore Belching with Rouse the Ancients. These 2 work as a little combo, since when you play the Gore Belching, it will reveal cards off the deck until you hit an attack, and the only other attack is Rouse the Ancients, which has 0 attack, meaning that the Gore Belching is essentially a 0 for 7. And I would like to point out that in Blitz, that's over a third of your opponent's life total. Personally, I like to run the Gore and Rouse combo for this faster format, but you'll also find a lot of power in the Nourishing Emptinesses if you choose to play them. However, that is it for the more expensive upgrades. I hope that this was of great help to you, and I really hope that you're enjoying Kassai, partly because she is really cool and strong, but also because she's one of my absolute favorite heroes in this game. There's a reason that I did her first. Anyways, thanks for watching.
If you liked this video and wanted to support me, consider checking out my Patreon. There's extra bonuses like Talishar card sleeves, early access to videos, and even your own GigaChad card. And to those who are already supporting me, you have my undying thanks. It's because of Chads like you that I can continue to do what I do. So please, stay Chadly, my friends.